Eric Buddy Meyer here from Crafty Devil and Teabag Beanies, and today we're going to be going through a pattern for a plush headbanger beanie. It's got the ribs that go straight down into a ribbed brim and a modified gathered bind off on the top. All you're going to need is a ball of that burlap blanket stuff right here. I used silver steel for this project, and this is the real super squishy stuff. You're going to need maybe, I'd say 100 yards of this stuff. Second in line is a CinDWood Crafts Loom. I'm using the adult sized 5/8 inch 48 peg. This thing, I'm doing a lot of projects on this, so if you get a chance to pick one of these up, do it, because if you're going to follow me, you're going to be using them a lot. Pair of scissors, knitting tool, that's about all you're going to need. So let's get things started here, and we'll get this hat going. What you want to do first on this is tie a slip knot. So basically what I do is I take the yarn in my hands and I drape it over the top of my hand, and I bring this back around. I usually go in between my third finger and my pinky, cross it over to make a little X on the back side of your hand, and bring it straight here, okay? Just hold it with your pinky, all right? So this is what you've got, okay? Now, reach under the first loop on the back of your hand, grab the second one, and gently pull it through, okay? Now, you get your loop, okay? Now you want to put this loop on your first peg of your loom, okay? I always use this one as my first and the black one as my last. Okay, so anyway, let's put this on here and we'll give it a little tug. Get it cinched up on there. It doesn't have to be real tight. Matter of fact, don't make it real tight. You know, just make it to where it's going to stay on there. And I put my tail inside the loom. Now for this particular hat, we are going to be going all the way around the loom in an E-wrap, okay? And all that is, you're going to take your yarn, you're going to go around the back side of the pegs, wrap it around once, go to the next one, wrap it around, follow this all the way around until you get to the beginning of your loom again, okay? Make sure you don't do it real tight, otherwise it's going to be hard to knit these over. We're at the last peg here. Now what I do is I usually take this and I just wrap it around my tack right there, okay, and then I go around and I push down all these loops on the loom. Okay, now that you've got that, this just keeps your loops from popping up off of the loom while you're messing around with things. Okay, so after that, we're going to do an E-wrap one more time around the top of all these pegs again, okay? So we wrap around, wrap around. Call this one round, the bottom one round. This top one is going to be another round, okay? So that is 2 rounds, okay? Now for this project, it calls for 10 rounds, okay? So what we're going to do is, now that we've got them E-wrapped around the loom, we're going to take our hook and we're going to slide it in the groove And we're going to take our first loop, pull it up over the top one, just like that. Okay? Go to the next one, pull it around nice and gently. You know, they should come right over without any problem. If they do have a problem, sometimes you can wiggle them around and, you know, get a little more slack out of them. Okay? But basically what I do is I go all the way around the loom and knit these over. Now we go around, we're going to push all of our loops down again because we don't want them in our way. Okay, we want to make enough room for our next wrap or round to sit on top of those pegs. Okay, so they are all sitting down on the loom now. Okay, and we are going to undo our tack here. Take our working yarn, go around from the back again. We are going to E-wrap again. This is round number 3. Okay, you know what? I'm going to stop here right now. Make sure that when you're doing this, you keep track of how many rounds you're doing. Okay, it does help. Take a piece of paper, and you can either put on here, you've done 1 round, or you've done 2 rounds, or you've done 3 rounds. Okay, after every time I finish up a round, I mark it. Okay. Okay, now that you've got your 10 rounds done, you should have quite a little bit of material showing up on your loom here. What we have done is we have just been working on the brim. All right, now in order to complete this brim, we're going to go and find our tail. Okay, here's the tail, the piece that we first tied on. Okay, so you know that this tail here, find the loop at the end of it. If you go, you'll find the loop. Okay, there it is. That's your very first loop. Now this loop was the one that you tied on to this, your first peg. Okay, so if you follow this loop, you can see that it goes all the way down to this first peg. Okay, just line up that loop. So you're going to take this, you're going to pull it back and just put it right there on that first peg. Okay, now you're going to do this with each and every other loop. All right, so you go to the next loop. I like to just grab my hook here and find it and pull it on right there to the next peg. Okay, turn your loom. You can see here this is kind of thick yarn, so you want to kind of look and find it. Here's your next loop. See it? Go all the way around like that. Okay, it's going to get a little bit easier as you do it. You know, you're going to get used to what you're looking for. You're going to be able to find it easier. So you just want to take it and put it on all of your pegs. Okay. Now, here's the thing. We've got this tail sticking out here now. Okay, now there's 2 ways you can do this. All right, we could have, before I started putting all these back on there, you know, I could have just laid this right back behind these inside the material and then put them over on it, and that would have hid that really well. Or you can just go in here, okay, and you can tuck this in between these pegs, put it in there, and then reach behind and kind of pull those out. But you know what, I don't want to do that, so let's go ahead and just do this. Let's go ahead and I'm going to take just a few of these loops off. Okay, so this is kind of good. It'll show you just in case you forget or whatever. You can always do this later. It doesn't matter. Okay, so here we go. We're just going to take this tail and we're going to lay it down in this material behind the pegs. Okay, there, see, it's tucked in there, no problem. Okay, now let's go back and just put our loops back on, and we will just hide that tail in there. Okay, now it's gone. Now, as you can see, the tail is right there, is where your knot was. Okay, and it's hidden in here. And now all you have to do now is we're going to start on this first peg. We're going to knit this bottom loop over the top. Okay, we're going to do that with every one of these, working in a clockwise direction. Okay, so the brim is done. 10 rows of E-wrap for the brim. Got it all the way done. Got it folded over. Got everything knitted over. Now go back to working on the body now for this hat. And what are we going to do for that? More E-wrap. Okay, between 18 and 20 rows of E-wrap is what you're going to need. You know, I used 20 on this, and it fits pretty good. You know, for a guy like me, it fits perfect. But you know, kids can wear them too, and they might look a little slouchy or whatever, but that's kind of the style. So that'll work fine. If you want a little bit shorter hat, a little bit smaller, then just do the 18 rounds. Or if you just can't bear to do 2 more rounds of E-wrap, then go for the 18. It's not really going to make too much of a difference, but I'm going to leave that up to you guys, and you can do what you want with it. Okay, so let's get on this body and finish this. So now I'm going to get down here, and we are going to take a look at getting the body done. So you're going to come behind your peg, and you're going to wrap this around. And guess what we're doing? More E-wrap. How fun, huh? Continue to wrap around the whole loom until you come back to the beginning. And then you're going to knit over like we did before. Push your yarn down to the bottom of the loom, and then keep doing that for 20 more rounds. Yep, that's right, 20 rounds. Okay, so now that we've finished up with the body of the hat and the brim, it's time to cinch this thing together and pull this top together. And we're going to be using a modified gathered bind off, okay? And I use this a lot in almost all my projects that I do with the looms. I'm using this type of bind off for the crown of the hats. Because it kind of cuts out a lot of the bulkiness in there, and it allows you to have a little bit cleaner look, I think, than just a straight drawstring bind off. But we'll be doing some of those in some other videos too down the line, so you can kind of compare and see what you like more. But for this project, we're going to use the modified gathered bind off, and especially with this big puffy stuff, I like to use that because it really cuts down. It's not so bulky on the top, and it kind of gives a really nice pattern in the top to where it's not so scrunched up, you know. So anyhow, let's finish this thing up and get you guys done with this. Okay. Now we are ready to do what has been called a modified gathered bind off, okay, for the crown of your hat or your beanie. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take your working yarn, which is this piece here that we've been using this whole time, okay, and we're going to E-wrap around the first and second peg, okay? Knit both of these over, just like that, okay? I like to push them down when I'm done. Okay, but now we're going to take the second one, we're going to pull it off and put it on the first peg. Okay? Now, take your yarn, go to the next peg that has a loop on it. Skip this one. Next peg that has a loop on it. E-wrap. Go to the second one in line there and E-wrap that. Okay? Now we're going to knit over each one again. Push down, pull the second loop off and put it on the first peg. Okay? See what we're doing here? We got a pattern going here. Okay? Again, skip the one without the loop, go to the next peg that has a loop on it, E-wrap, E-wrap the next one in line, knit over, push them down. I just like to push them down because it kind of cinches everything together, kind of where it needs to be. Okay, pull that loop up, put it on the peg that you first wrapped. Okay, follow this all the way around. Now that you have E-wrapped your pegs and moved your odd number loops onto the even number peg, you should have a full loom that looks like this, with 2 loops on your first peg, then an empty peg, and then on your next peg, 2 loops and an empty peg. This should go all the way around. Okay, now that you're done with that, all you do is knit your bottom loops over the top all the way around. Go ahead and push these loops down all the way around. And with this method, you don't have to do all those decreases. That sometimes gets confusing, so this is kind of a simpler way that works pretty well. Okay, so we're done with that. Now we've got a single loop with an empty peg separating another peg with a single loop all the way around. Now, you're going to take your yarn, your working yarn, start at the beginning, okay? I'm just going to grab my loom, and I'm going to hold the yarn here in the front, and I'm going to spin my loom all the way around. See how this yarn is just wrapping around the loom? Okay, there's once. I'm going to go twice. Sometimes you can get away with 1.5 times. But depending on the yarn, sometimes you want to go a little more. So I always go twice just to make sure I've got enough. Now you can just take your scissors and cut your yarn. And take your hook, grab the loop, take your working yarn, go under the loop and under your hook, okay? You're going to grab that working yarn and pull it through the loop, okay? And go ahead and just pull it all the way through. Okay? And there it is. Now, take this loop and pull it off. Okay, we are done with that. Okay, so now, the next one in line, you see it? We're going to leave this one alone. We're going to skip that one. We're going to go to the next peg with a loop on it. We're going to do the same thing. Okay, go behind your pegs here, come out in front of the next peg that you're going to work with, and we're going to do the same thing, kind of this purl stitch here, go under the loop, hook that working yarn, pull it through, all the way through, and take that loop off the loom. Okay, same thing, repeat this all the way around. Okay, here we are at the very last loop before our end. Okay, we're going to now skip over this one and go to the first loop we come to from the beginning of our loom, okay, which would be this one. Kind of the same idea, but this time we're going to keep behind the pegs here. We're going to pull in front. We're going to go up through the bottom of the loop grab the working yarn and pull it through, okay? So just the opposite of what we did the last round. When you're done, pull it off the loom, okay? Now with this, we're not skipping any. We're going directly to the next peg in line. So up through the bottom of the loop, hook over the working yarn and pull it through the loop and take it off the loom. Do this all the way around. Okay, now all the yarn is off the loom. What you want to do is you want to grab the hat in the middle, pick it up. You can either give it a good shake, or you can grab onto it and just pull all the material down to where it's nice and flat. What you want to do is you want to just hang on to this and gently pull, and you'll see this thing just starts to gather up on itself. Okay, you want to do it nice and gentle because this yarn here tends to want to break if you pull on it too hard. Okay, now that we've got all of our string gathered up into the top of the hat, just take a large needle, thread your yarn through. I cut this, I left about an 8 to 10 inch tail and then threaded it through this. And we want to thread through the very top of the hat. Go ahead and pull it through. Leave a little loop here like this. Push your needle up through the hat, through the center again, and come through this loop. Okay? Pull it tight. Just kind of lock that in. Okay, now what I like to do is I go right through the top and pop it right out again, like that. See, coming straight through. I pull through. I leave kind of a long loop right here. Get that yarn all pulled through. And I just pull the needle off, okay? That leaves me with 2 strands here, and I just tie a simple knot in these. Pull it tight and cut the ends off. And there you have it, the ribbed headbanger. Okay, you guys are done with your hat. I want to thank you guys for watching and checking out this video. Remember, be sure and check out CinDWood Craft Looms on